Welcome to Forging a Life podcast with Coach Christine Clark. Forging a Life is a Sunglow transformation production aired on Transformation Talk Radio and all your favorite podcast platforms. If you own a business, have a side hustle, desire to make the leap into self-employment, or just love human interest stories, Forging a Life podcast is for you. Christine Clark is an internationally certified transformational life coach. She is the coach for your entrepreneurial life, and these are her people. Jump into the fire with those forging success on their own terms with courage, tenacity, and resilience. These are men and women you could easily meet on the street in your own community. Gain wisdom, insight, knowledge, and inspiration each episode as these business owners get transparent with Coach Christine Clark, sharing their passions, challenges, and origin stories. This is Forging a Life.
Hello and welcome to Forging a Life podcast. I am Coach Christine Clark, and today my guest is Vicky Arsenault, who is a life coach also, and she does her business as Coach Vicky Arsenault. And I am delighted to have you. Vicky is from, I just found out, New Hampshire, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about all kinds of things. We had a lovely conversation a couple weeks ago. So welcome to the show, Vicky. I'm delighted to have you as my guest.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
You are most welcome. Now, you have stepped into coaching and a couple of different things. And what I'd like to do is just let's find out about what you're doing now.
Okay, sure. So right now, my main focus is helping Christian women start home-based businesses and help those grow so they could actually earn a full-time income from home, doing something that they're already naturally gifted to do anyway.
Wonderful. That's exciting. So when you talk about home-based business, I mean, that can be anything, of course. Give me an idea about the variety of businesses that people have been in that have worked with you.
So I have somebody who is an artist, another who works in health coaching, actually several that are health coaches, and one that's in a business doing hair products.
Okay.
And yeah, but there are people also, I have one that's about to start like a dog treat bakery from her house and maybe doing some pet sitting and things like that. And another that does jewelry. So it's kind of a huge variety.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You told me that 15 years ago, you were doing a professional organizing business, mm-hmm. and you started that. So was that like your very first entrepreneur venture, or were there other things?
No, that was pretty much the first one. And it just was born out of a love of organizing. I started, especially after I had my daughter, because by that point she was about 2.5. And when you're pregnant, you start getting into the nesting syndrome. Mm-hmm. And suddenly I started just loving organizing. And so I liked things to be in a place where I knew even if the house was a mess, I could put them back pretty quickly. And I just loved doing it. And there were so many people that needed help with that. So I kind of came up with my own system, and I would go into people's homes and just go through that system with them and quickly go through all of their things and get them organized and labeled and just making life more efficient.
Yeah.
It's just like, it just made it easier. I knew where to find everything.
So that's interesting, because as a mom, already having one full job, which is called being a mom. Mm-hmm. And then we as women also have the other full-time job of being spouse and housekeeper, all that. Mm-hmm. You decide to add in entrepreneurship and go into other people's homes and also do business. Mm-hmm. How did that go?
Well, it went well. The very first job that I took, I don't even know how this person found me, but I had created a website and she ended up finding me, and she was in Vermont, which where she lives is about an hour and 15 minutes from where I live.
Okay.
And I walked into her place and I saw the room, and literally you could not step into the door. You had to step over stuff to even get in the room. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I hope that I can do this, because this is my very, very first paying job ever. And I don't even know this person. It's a total stranger. And I'm going, oh my gosh, what did I just do? But on the outside, I'm going, this is great. We got this. This is no problem at all. We'll have this done. So I had quoted her a price. I had guesstimated that it would maybe take about 10-ish hours to get it done from start to finish. And it did. That's what it took. And she was super thrilled. So I went back and did some other work there eventually. But the very first job was pretty terrifying. What have I just done to myself? I hope I can follow through and do what I said I would do. And it was pretty scary. But after that, it got a lot better. And then I got a routine happening, so I knew when I went into a place approximately how long it would take to get that done. And then I would price it out based on that, so that I didn't have to say it was so much per hour. I would just kind of go in, look at the room, and give them an estimate, because I knew how much it was going to be per hour. But I could say to them, oh, this is going to be about $240 to get this room done from start to finish, or $320. And that seemed more reasonable. If I gave somebody a price per hour, they might think it's going to take them 100 hours to go through that room. So I decided to do it that way, which made it much easier. And if I went over a little bit on hours and didn't make what I thought I would make, it really wasn't that big a deal.
So one of the things that worked really well for you from the get-go was not giving them what your price per hour is, but just quoting the job. It was clean. And like you said, if I have, if I was knee deep in clutter and needed somebody help, the reason I'm calling for help is because I've never gotten this done.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. Very cool. Very cool. And I love it that the universe gave you that really challenging job right off the bat. That's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it was funny. It was an old farmhouse, a little tiny room, and she wanted this little tiny room to be a guest room, an office, and a sewing room. And if it were 8 by 10, I'd be surprised. I'm like, okay, we'll see if we can make that work. And we made it work. So it was a pull-out little love seat that she had as the guest room portion of it. But I felt after we finished that job, I thought, okay, this is good. I can do this, because if I can do this room, there can't be anything worse.
Right. Right. Yeah. And scared you and then built that confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
And you did that for how long? 15 years or not?
No, I did it for about 5 years. I think I did it till about 2010-ish.
Okay. And then what was the next thing that came along?
So I started doing more life coaching, because I found that when I was working with these women, organizing their homes, we were just chatting about things, and we would start chatting about a lot of life issues and different things.
Right.
So I started to really like that side of it more than the organizing side of it. It was more spending time with them. So I started branching into life coaching to try to empower women. And at the time, I was in a marriage that was, I'll say, a lot more challenging. And so I really felt like I wanted to help empower women, because in that marriage, I felt constantly like I had to fight to keep myself confident. If I don't want to say like bad things about him, but I will say that it was really challenging for me to keep up my own self-esteem. And really what was saving me was just getting into the Bible and finding out who God says I am, so that became my identity, and nobody could change what I believe about my identity and how God thinks about me. So actually during that time, I started getting stronger, and I wanted to help other women feel empowered. Like, you don't have to listen to what everybody else is telling you about you. You just have to know who you are and who you're created to be. And together we'll figure that out. And so I've been kind of doing that in some form all of these years. So then that's been fun, just empowering women and helping them kind of see outside themselves and to put their own labels on themselves, not listen to what everybody else is saying.
Absolutely. And I love that piece of your story, that you were in there helping people organize And then seeing that I'm going to do a read on this, that, part of the disorganization was some self-esteem, some other issues in life that were kind of like, this was just part of the visible side of what was going on internally.
Yes.
And for you to want to have greater impact, work with them, partly because of your own journey. And that's real similar to the way I ended up getting into life coaching. I was a beauty consultant with Mary Kay. I started on my own personal development journey. As I learned that stuff, I wanted to use it and did use it to the people around me, my team and those kinds of things. But the same kind of thing, I was looking at these women and seeing the low self-esteem, seeing the deflection of, praise that would come their way. And I wanted to reach in and just, turn up their value knob, and I was in the wrong uniform. So it's like, I think I want to coach. I think I want to do this, which is very cool. And what I'm hearing in your story, and I want you to share more on this, if you would, that you were not probably getting the support for your entrepreneur business, being a woman, stepping outside the home with that marriage. And so one of the big things that I know about, especially the spouse relationship, is it can make or break the business. Mm-hmm. And to hear that you recognized you weren't getting the support that you wanted, finding a different source for yourself, a source that was intuitive for you to get the support you needed, to get the inspiration you needed, and then to want to give that to other women is a beautiful piece. But talk to me about what it's like to have that resistance within the household. And if what was it that guided you to seek out that piece that's going to help you through that?
Well, I think at the time, he was an alcoholic. And so it just was very difficult all the way around. But we also lived in a very, very small town. Like, that town has maybe a few thousand people. And we live really far from the highway. It takes at least an hour just to get to the highway. So having that kind of job in this area was already a challenge. So he tended to point out the more realistic side of things and why something wasn't going to work, instead of saying, well, even if you find one house, or even if you have 3 houses, and like just taking the encouraging side, which I'm the ultimate optimist. So I'm a dreamer and I've got 1,000 ideas, and why aren't you supporting them? So I think, taking that in, and then also in our town at that time, we used to have a paper mill, which closed. So there were 800 people without jobs.
Oh, man.
And so here I am trying now. I think that might have been 2008. So it was just very difficult. And what I found was I ended up working with a lot of doctors and nurses and people who had higher paying jobs and really just didn't have enough time to keep their house organized, or they could clean it, or maybe they hired somebody to clean it. So I started working more with people, like that. But I also always kept a part-time job so that I did have some steady income that was coming in. So organizing was sort of my weekend gig, or when I wasn't working my other job. Having that resistance, and I won't lie, I mean, there's still some times that in the back of my head, I hear some of those things that I used to hear. I still, all these years later, and I'm remarried, and, it was, and he's so supportive. Like, he always supports everything I'm doing and just believes that I can do anything I put my mind to. And he's still the source of logic, but in a different way. He'll say, what are you going to do with that? So that's really helpful.
Yeah. Having someone who's a sounding board for what's possible rather than a discouraging voice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, when we started seeing each other, I said, listen, I'm going to have probably 1,000 ideas a day that I'm going to throw at you. You literally do not need to pay any attention to them until I stick to one. And then we can actually talk about it. But otherwise, just nod and smile, and I'm good.
Just don't shut me down, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Just say, okay. Yep, that's a possibility, Vic. So.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, sure.
And then naturally coaching the women that you were organizing for, going into the homes for, and you turned to life coaching. Then you turned to health coaching.
Yes,
So
I'm
tell me about
constantly
that
evolving.
transition.
Yes, as I evolve constantly. Yeah, so I had been life coaching for a while, and a friend that I had, it was sort of an acquaintance that I met through different church circles. She had invited me to breakfast one day and was kind of telling me about this opportunity that she had for health coaching, and at that time I was 41 and was still eating ramen noodles every day, and apple pie for breakfast, lunch. So I fed my daughter well, and then I just kind of ate whatever because I had a really fast metabolism. So I never had to really worry about that until I hit about 41. And all of a sudden I'm getting this little extra fluff. And so I was like, I'll check out and see what she has to say and what this program is she's talking about. So I ended up chatting with her, and I said, well, I'll think on this for a little bit. And eventually I decided that I would end up health coaching. Over time, I ended up putting life coaching on hold because the health coaching was taking off. I had a lot of clients, and I found that I was really kind of doing some life coaching while I was health coaching. And so I didn't really work on the life coaching side of the business too much during most of that period, which has been about 6 years. I'd say maybe the first year. And then last year, 2019, I started thinking about it a little bit more and thinking maybe I want to create something different, but I was just trying to figure out how. And I really started to think about women in midlife and how difficult that whole change can be in a woman's life, and the weight gain that you just struggle with and energy levels and all of those things. So I started kind of leaning towards that, played around with that for a few months, and created a Facebook group, had some people in it. And then I was like, is this still not quite right? So it's always been just tweaking and tweaking, and until I get to the thing. It feels like I'm getting closer and closer every time to what the thing is that I feel that I can just keep growing and expanding upon instead of just changing direction. But I think the business coaching is going to be the thing because I just love reading about business things and marketing things, and I love empowering women to use their gifts or passions and talents that they have to use that to be a blessing to other people who need what they have to offer. So that's kind of where I've kind of ended up, why I love that so much. And I think it's just another way for them to be confident in their own identity. I think being an entrepreneur of any sort really causes you to grow more personally than ever. So, yeah.
Yeah, that, entrepreneurship is the biggest self-improvement course you can ever take.
Yes,
yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, going to step outside that comfort zone, and all of it gets very challenging, as you know. So, yeah, it's different when you go to work for somebody else and can get a paycheck, get a salary. But when you're all alone and you're the talent, or you're the thing, or it's your product, then that's when it gets tough to stand up straight, look people in the eye, say, this is what I'm worth, and get paid for it.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. You were finding that you were life coaching with the health coaching, and then, kind of tweaked. So you've kind of landed into coaching for entrepreneurship. Are you still tweaking, or is this feeling pretty solid?
It's feeling pretty solid. I think I want to stay here. And the reason I started getting into it was because I was training up a whole bunch of new health coaches. And as I've been doing that over the years, I found I just really like that side of it. I like training people up and helping them get out of their comfort zones and helping them challenge themselves and helping them create some personal growth and expanding their own mind and busting some concepts that they have. That part I find fun because I think you get so much freedom when you really just start to not care what anybody else is thinking. You just go and do the mission that you feel like you need to do and serve the people that you feel like you need to serve. And I fell in love with that part of it, actually. and I do love health coaching people, and I do still have a group unrelated to the company I was working with, so that I could still work with some women and help them get through some of those things that they might struggle with. So that will remain my side project, but I really do just love the business side.
Talk to me about how you put the blinders on and focus on the people you want to serve. What does that look like for you?
Well, I think there are times where I'm really grateful for my husband, because there are times when you have those days where you doubt yourself and can I do this and can I do this? And you look at the person across the way or in a group you're in and you think, wow, they're so successful, or they're so this. You compare yourself, and that's the part that I want them to avoid. And so what I have to do when I have those times is, first of all, remind myself of what I'm doing and not to look to the left or to the right. I need to look towards what my version of success looks like, which is different than everybody else's. I feel like that's just stayed true to me. And on the days where I feel like I'm terrible, I don't know if I can do this, I do have my husband that's like, no, remember you did this, remember you did this, remember you did. Yes, that's right. Thank you. So it's just being reminded and to just not look around at what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because that comparison game, that can sabotage you really fast.
Oh yeah. They'll steal your joy, steal your mission. You'll feel too scared to share anything with anybody because you're not going to do it as well as somebody else, and all the things that we get in our heads.
Yeah. And I find that for me, what I hear is one little piece of someone else's story or what they're about or what they did. And that piece is like really bright and shiny. It's like, oh, wow. I haven't done that.
Yeah.
And what we don't see is the whole rest of the story. Right. And that pretty much we're all very much the same, that we have our high spots and we have the stuff we're working on. But when we see somebody else's, their full performance and their premiere, and we're thinking, we're looking at our own dress rehearsals like, what?
Right. Yeah. I heard someone say once, we compare their highlight reel to our gag reel.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's all just little tiny bits, but yeah. What makes a difference for women entrepreneurs? Because I hear that's your avatar is Christian women entrepreneurs. And what is the biggest hurdle that you think women stepping into business, or women, maybe have been in business for just, a short period of time on their own, what do you think is the biggest block or challenge or what happens?
Well, I think with Christian women, and it could be all kinds of women, but I know with us, it seems to be this total conflict about money. Should you earn it? Should you not earn it? Are Christians supposed to be poor so that you can be humble and therefore worthy or whatever? Or are you supposed to live in abundance? So what are you supposed to do? Or maybe you're supposed to do everything as ministry, because if you charge for it, well, then you're just awful. What kind of person are you? You're just trying to get money, trying to make money off people. You're greedy. So you're dealing with all of these things, because if people picture what they think a Christian person is like, or the ideal Christian person, then they get really stuck. So these women start to compare themselves to what this ideal woman is.
Right.
And they start thinking about, what is everyone else going to think about me? Is God mad at me? Does he want me to even have a business? Is that a godly thing to do? And, it's just so many questions that I think Christian women face, because scriptures sometimes are taken out of context, or it's supposed to just be men that do things like that. Don't even get me started. And so, all of these things, and I'm like, no, we're gonna say what the Bible actually says, and then we're gonna set you free. And that's why I tend to focus on Christian. I don't care if they're not Christian women that come into my program, just as long as they know that's really the basis of what I'm teaching on, and they're comfortable with that, then I'm fine. Because I just know this is a thing that Christian women struggle with, mainly because this is what I struggled with for so many years. And now that I've come past that, I feel like I need to tell them, don't listen to those lies. You just need to know what scripture actually says, and let's go through that together so you can actually fulfill the purpose you have for your life, as it evolves and kind of works out.
Yeah. And as you're talking, it's like the piece that I would work is called, guilt and shame.
Mm-hmm.
We have guilt, we have shame around whatever, any kind of construct that we create about what this person should be, whether
Yes.
it's what a perfect mom should be, or the perfect sister, or the perfect spouse, and then when we're operating outside that, then there's pushback internally. Yeah. If you are professing to be a Christian woman and that construct is huge,
Mm-hmm.
and that could cause a lot of blocks. Yeah, and even outside of the heading of Christian entrepreneurship, learning to charge appropriately for the service, for the value you bring, willing to be okay with making money. A lot of people, there is this fear of success, or how much
Mm-hmm.
success, or will success change me?
Right.
And that's a real conversation to have, because until you can stand in your own power, in your own value, and say, yes, I am worth this. It's okay for B2P, and then be okay with the people that are going to come and work with you, and be okay with the ones that don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter what it is that you are providing as a service, or making, whether it's jewelry, or I had a gal that made pet collars, festive pet collars, that when you're putting your own product out there to be okay with, some people are going to love it and want these, and other people not. And then that's okay, because we are meant to serve our niche. We are meant to serve this actually very narrow group of people to the best of our ability. And if you spread your message, you try and please or serve everybody, you end up really watering down what you're bringing, and then you get fewer people. But if you can focus your message and focus what you're offering, then you can serve lots and lots of people in that little sliver of life.
Yep, I agree. And that's one of the things I want to teach them. And actually, I had just done a Facebook Live for them today, was to say, hey, one of the main things is you have to believe in the product or service that you provide. And you have to also understand the value that it is providing for your customers, your clients. They want this. Like, I will pay more money to have my hair cut at one location than another location, because of the quality of service I get at that location. So
Right.
It might be worth the extra 10 or 15 bucks. People might have this mindset where, oh, no one's going to pay that amount of money. Well, that's just not true. That's a mind block that you have.
Right. Yep.
Somebody who wants that particular thing, they get it. Someone wants a cruise or a vacation, they find a way to make it happen, no matter
Absolutely.
how much it is, So yeah, it's just busting some of those concepts and learning about pricing and things like that. Yeah, it's so much fun.
It is. Yeah, and being willing to ask for what you want, to be in it, and to stand in your value, and know that what you offer, what you're doing, like you said, if they're secure in it, if they believe in what they're doing and what they're offering, then that's all you really need. Mm-hmm. Because then after that, it's a numbers game. I mean, there is that business piece. You have to reach out to so many people to find your people. Mm-hmm. And what I find fascinating is that doesn't matter whether you're offering coaching services or anything else, or jewelry pieces, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. That's one of the universals is, you're going to find people that are going to say, or don't want that, or do people really use that? Or you're going to have somebody that's going to say, you want how much for that?
Right, and exactly.
Those aren't your people.
Exactly.
Let them go.
Exactly. They're not your people.
Yeah.
And I found too that when I did things, I used to help people with their finances and budgeting and things like that. And I always found that when I didn't charge for it, especially when I'm working with somebody with their finances and I see that their finances, they're living way beyond their means, I felt terrible charging them, because now I'm one more expense and I'm adding to the problem. But what I found was when you don't charge them for it, they don't stick to whatever budget you put together. And I was like, I'll not do that again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I learned from that and moved on. And But I used to do things like that all the time because I was trying to be nice or want to be
Right.
helpful.
Yeah. We want to be liked. We want everyone to love us.
Yes.
So I'm willing to give you this for nothing. And then it's like, how am I going to pay my bills?
Yeah. And then they don't even stick with it. And
right. If they don't have skin in the
things.
Game. Yeah. They have to have skin in the game to
mm-hmm.
value what you're giving. Yeah. And I think that's one of the big ones, to know that it's not a monetary exchange. I mean, it is, but it's really more reinforcing the value and the significance of whatever it is. Because if they didn't pay you for it, they didn't stick to the budget.
Right.
Yeah. So you value it. They have to pay for it, but then it also gives them that little oomph to, this is really expert advice I'm giving. This is really something that can help me. There's more buy-in. If there's buy-in, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Definitely. Because I've paid for programs, and sometimes when it hurts me a little bit to pay for the programs, I am right on it. I do every single thing I'm asked to do. Where if I'm in a free group or free something, I might pick some things here and there, but I probably won't make tons of progress. But when I've paid for something and it was a little more than was even my comfort zone, then I tend to be right on it. I am on every single training.
Got to get your value out of that.
Call. Exactly. And so, yeah. And I think a lot of people are that way, and I don't think we realize that we do that, but I think that when I do something for free, and sometimes I still will, and people do appreciate it. Like, people appreciate all the things you do, but it doesn't necessarily transform them. Where when I've paid for things, it actually will transform me because, like you said, it's skin in the game. I paid for that. I want every penny worth of what I paid for. And the things the programs that I've taken that were free or super low cost, I got some value, but maybe not as much as I didn't put in as much effort as maybe another program I paid for.
Right. Yeah. And that's you wanting the value. And I also think there's a psychological piece that it is more valuable, that whatever they're providing as far as content is more significant because they're charging a higher dollar amount for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What else? What are the other big challenges that you see for people in women entrepreneurs?
Well, I think that sometimes they just don't always have a clear purpose in what they're doing.
Yes.
So there's a lot of running around in circles. So.
Yeah. I love that, because that's exactly, as an entrepreneur, we have, anything really, but in business, it's more significant to ask people, what is it that you want? What do you want to achieve? 6 months, a year from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now. And people don't really know. They can't articulate it. I want more business. Well, that's cool. What does that look like?
Yeah.
What is more business? Right. How many, and how many, what's your business now? Dollar amount, clients, how much product you're selling, what's moving. And then, what would more, because, if they, like the person with jewelry or the dog collars, more is like, well, if you sold one more this year, that would be more.
Mm-hmm.
You happy with that? Well, no. Okay, then what is it? Yeah, defining that. Mm. So what's the process to help, to guide people to being clear?
Well, a lot of times I will ask them, what's your ideal? And if time and money, you had every resource available to you, what would you want to create, and why would you want to create it? And I've seen it while working with health clients too, when somebody says, oh, I want to get healthy. Okay, what does healthy look like?
Right, yeah.
What does that look like to you? Because that's different than what it looks like for me. And I think, getting them to be specific. I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, that's awesome. So what is that 20 pounds going to do? So when you get to that mark on the scale, how's your life going to be different? Are the heavens going to open up? Like, what's going to happen? So,
right.
And making people think about this. So even in their
Mm-hmm.
business, I want to get to what goal? Otherwise, you're just going with no destination and you're just running around catching stuff here and there. And I like to think of it as sort of a GPS where, I used to live out in Montana. And if I said, oh, I want to go to Montana, I want to go to Missoula. And okay, that's great. Now I know that. Now how am I going to get there? You can't just hop in the car and just drive west and think you're going to reach it. You've got to have a way to get there. So even when somebody gets their goal, like I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to run a marathon, or I want to do this, or I want to help 100 women start businesses in 2021, whatever the goal is, why? What happened? Why do you want that? And then what's going to happen when you get there? Because I find that you always want to set a new goal when you get there. And it doesn't have to be like a concrete goal. Just, I feel like at the end, when you get to your goal, it's not really the finish line. It's just the beginning of a new race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's what's happened with all of my business evolving here, is that I get to one finish line type thing. And then I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be more. And I think that's in all of us. So I think what it is just helping them really define what success looks like to them.
That's really a great starting point. I work with a program that I've created called Forging a Life, and it's made based off of the process to make a Japanese style katana, which is what my husband does. That's his business. And the very first thing that we do is vision. You have to have a vision, and then we can, go from there. And again, the vision, take the lid off, whatever is possible, and then you still have to have the specifics. So how do you get people into the specifics once you get them to take that no holds barred, no constraints, think big, and then go from that? Then how do you make them get clear on that, like specific on that?
Well, when say they have a big vision, like a lot of people will say, okay, I want to hit a 6-figure mark. That would be fantastic. Okay, so before we get to the 6-figure mark, let's get to the 3-figure mark, or even the 2-figure. Let's start.
Absolutely.
And so just taking those little steps. Okay, so now it doesn't feel like this giant thing we have to go for. 6 figures is a lot, and I also would be like, why is that important? What would you do with that 6-figure income? What would you do? But then just breaking it down into, okay, so where are you at in your business right now? And what can we do to get you to 3 figures? What can we do to get you to 4? And what can we do to get you to 5? And then even within those things, breaking it down into just little action steps, little things that they can do to get a little more momentum. And so it varies for every single person because their businesses are so different. But I do always have them be very specific. I do have them have a time frame that they want to get this done in, and I do have them take intentional steps, and I have them stay really results focused so that it's a small result. So if it's I want to earn 3 figures, 4 figures this month, whichever one they want, because they're usually just starting out, but I want to get to 4 figures in a month. Okay, so how much would you need per week? How many sales would you need in order to make that happen? How could you maybe, we'll work on some ways of maybe different side ways that you could bring in that income that still have to do with your business. What are some things we could do? So we just get creative and just realizing there's really no wrong answer. And there's also not really a way you can mess it up. If you don't hit that goal for that particular month, well, you can give yourself a little bit of grace because you took a lot of action steps, at least to make something happen.
Yeah.
And during that process, you grow and you learn and you experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that part as far as, whatever they want, whatever they choose is good. And I really appreciate the linking it to the action steps. Too often people will say, I want this outcome. And if they get the outcome, yay. If they don't get the outcome, I failed. But you don't always have control of your outcomes, but you do have control of your action steps. Exactly. And so it's lovely to hear you that we're going to back it up to what are you going to do? How many do you have to do? How many outreaches do you have to do? How many people do you have to talk to? How many?
Right.
Yeah. And then what are the other ways or the other avenues of income that you can to bring in? So yeah. And then, whether you hit it or not, celebrate what you did. Mm-hmm. And was this more than you did the month before? Yes. Well, that's a win. Even if you didn't hit the dollar thing, you're in motion, you're in progress.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And that's just it. It's the taking the action. And I think a lot of people sometimes just don't know where to start. I don't know how to take action. What should I do? And, so we just kind of work on some of those things and even making it something realistic, like, just shoot a hello message to 10 people this week just to say hi and how are you doing. It doesn't even have to be business related. Make it about your relationship with people. And then, as that grows and things start building up, you start seeing things change in your business as you start even just being genuine with people, just reaching out because you care, not because you're trying to make a sale, but because you actually care. And so I think that's one of the big things I think people know when they're being sold to. Like, I'll tell you, I have gotten so many Facebook messages from people who are selling this particular product, which does not even apply to my life at this point. Right. So they haven't even figured out, they just happen to know who I am. So they'll send me this message. It's the same exact message from like 5 different people. And one of them was a screenshot of the forwarded message. And that's what got sent to me. And I was like, really? You think that does not make a sale. Like, first of all, you didn't even say to me, hey, Vicky, maybe your grandson could use this. Or, I was thinking about you today. The person who says to me, hey, you know what? I was thinking about you today. And I know you have a grandson that's 2.5. And I thought maybe this would be a really good product for him. And, if you want to talk more about it, let me know. Versus sending me these forwarded message that are copy and paste. Right. Like, every single person sent me the same thing. And I was like, no, I need to do a Facebook Live. It's actually one of the things that helped birth this part of my business because I was like, no, you cannot do this and try to make sales. I have got to stop this.
Yeah. And this is one of the things that I have noticed within, well, at least in the coaching business, and I think it carries over to a lot of other industries, is there was this move away from grassroots to internet and social media marketing. Mm-hmm. And now the social media marketing, the internet marketing has gotten so noisy and so exactly what you're saying, people selling something without connection, without relationship, that really the pendulum has swung back. And if you want to have and grow your business, people have to experience you first. People have to want something, a relationship with you, and you have to go back to the one-on-ones. You have to go back to actually not just emailing people and texting people, but freaking call them.
Right.
Leave a voice message which has your intonation and your, the emotion with it, and being willing to hook up with people and being willing to approach people in person or one-on-one. And yes, it's scary because they might say no, and then it's, in your face, but that is so much more powerful from building that connection and relationship. And yeah, when you see that, for me, it's LinkedIn, because I'm a coach on LinkedIn, and I get all these messages of people that do things, sell to coaches, right? But that they're just telling me what, that they're selling to coaches. And it's like, yeah, I don't know you from Adam.
I know.
So I'm not doing anything there. And to be able to be willing to do the work, it's more time consuming to do a personal message than it is to take a picture of a message.
Take a screenshot of
right.
messages. Oh my gosh.
And yet it'll get you further. And it will hone your skills faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it keeps you real. And what people want nowadays is real people just being your authentic self, imperfect,
Absolutely.
whatever it is. And I found that more and more over the past year and a half or so, that I was like, I'm not going to reach out to somebody unless they were actually somebody that was on my heart. I'm not just going to mass produce texts that are like, hey, how's it going? Thinking about you today. Like, if you get one from me, it's because I was thinking about you.
Because I actually thought of you today.
Yes, and not because I
Novel.
was going through my list of people
Right.
saying, oh, I've got to send a message to try to, like,
Mm-hmm.
create relationships. Well, that's still creating fake relationships, and I just don't like that. So, but when I get those messages, I get them on LinkedIn also. I don't do too much on there, but I'll get some every once in a while, and they'll be like, hey, Vicky, I'm not really sure what your business is, but I just wanted to tell you what we have. We have a mastermind, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you didn't even take the time to look at my profile. What are you doing? This is terrible. Don't do that. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I could coach you, and this is my fee structure.
Exactly. Let me tell you what not to do. Like, I actually created something that was like 6 ways you're repelling customers and how to fix them. And I will just tell you that's one of them.
Right.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Blind solicitation, that's interesting because they use a little bit of the language like it's trying to be personal.
Mm-hmm.
But it fails because they start out with, I don't know, but maybe you'd like this.
I know. I was like, well, at least you were honest that you don't know and you didn't take the time to look, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Takes 2 seconds to click on the profile, but okay.
Yeah. So what else is important, do you think, for people in general in business?
Well, I honestly, I think the most important thing is to just be true to yourself and, true to what you feel you're supposed to do. And that kind of goes along with what we were talking about before, about just staying focused on you and not looking around, looking at your own goal. Because I just, I don't want people to feel like they have to sell out. And I want people to know that they are the creator of their business. So there are no rules except the ones that they impose on themselves.
Right.
So, for me, I discovered over the past few years, so for 6 years, I've been health coaching, and I had to make several calls every week. And they're only probably 15 minutes, most of them. Some of them were a little longer. But that was a lot of calling and just a lot of time. And what I discovered was I really enjoy time freedom. And so it wasn't even about the money I was earning anymore. But the money I was earning was providing my time freedom, which I found is more important to me. So when somebody wants to stop by, they need prayer, or someone wants to go, well, when we used to be able to have coffee dates, and like I would do that all the time because I get to spend time with people and just chatting and listening, drinking coffee. I just discovered that that's what I really like. And so I wanted to kind of change the way I did business so that it creates, people are still getting a lot of value, and I still love working with people. I'm a total people person, but I just didn't want it sucking up all of my hours of the day. So instead of doing one-on-one, group coaching is a better format for me. Some people really thrive on the one-on-one and love doing calls and being on their phone, and I would just assume sit my phone down somewhere and find it later. So, and not have to be a slave to it. So I prefer now the group coaching method, but I wouldn't have known that had I not spent all of the time doing one-on-one coaching. So that's why I think your business is always evolving a little bit, because something works for a while. And then pretty soon it's just time for a shift, or something changes in you. We all grow and we all change. And then you're ready for the next avenue of your business. And then it's okay to shift. It's not a big deal. It's your business. You can do what you want. So yeah,
that's a really great point, that as you go along, you're going to learn things. You're going to learn things about the business. You're going to learn things about yourself. And it's okay to change your business structure or your mode of operation to be in more alignment with who you are. Yeah, like you said, the only constructs really are the ones that you create in your own head. And to be able to be aware of what's going on and how you feel about any part of the business you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and then be okay to change that to make it work for you. Yeah. That's good. What comes to mind is when I used to be in direct sales and would do the outreach calls to book the appointments. And then I would book the appointments. I was always trying to appease or please the client or the potential client,
Mm-hmm.
and did not learn until later to set the boundaries about when am I willing to go out and
Right.
hold the appointment. And I didn't have to give away all my nights, and I didn't have to give away my weekends. But if I held them, and even if it was in my schedule that this was me time, this was family time, it was okay to someone say, well, how about this time? It's like, oh no, I'm already booked there, but I can do this for you.
Exactly.
They don't have to know why I'm booked.
Exactly.
But that was one of the learning curves, is to set the boundaries and set my own schedule and be okay knowing that I will find the people to fill the spots that I have available.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. I had to learn the same thing, because especially with health coaching, it's all over the place.
Right. Yeah. They want you. Can you do it on Saturday morning? No.
Yeah, exactly. It's like sometimes maybe if everyone's busy, I don't mind. But other than that,
my family, right? Yeah. Good. So what's your vision for your business? Pick whatever time frame you want, 6 months, years, 5 years from now. What do you want to see for yourself? What do you want to be doing?
Well, so I have 2 memberships, and I'm hoping to have 100 women in each of those memberships throughout 2021. And I want to do that because I think it's going to be a really great place for them to be able to grow and develop in their business skills, and the other one in their health side. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And it eventually, I just started a podcast. And so that is just a way for me. I just have info that I want to get out there for people, just inspiration, encouraging things. So, and also just to build maybe a base audience, from where I live, it's such a small area. Mm-hmm. And so, and I thought it would be a great way to be able to reach more people. And I think in these 2 memberships, I really just want to go that because I just want to see the breakthrough happen in these women's lives. And I want to help 100 women get their businesses going and start earning a full-time income from home so that they can center their life around what matters most to them and not have to be a slave to somebody else's schedule. So that's my big goal.
Beautiful. I love it. I love the specificity, the 100 women, and in the membership group and for them to all reach entrepreneurship to a level where they can do that full time, let go of the other job, the job.
Yes, if they want to.
If they want to, if they choose to. Yeah, beautiful. This has been great, Vicky. Love talking with you. This has been a rich conversation. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Anything else before we sign off?
Nope, I don't think so. I think this has been a great conversation, and it's been fun really talking to you and sharing stories and just learning more about each other. So I appreciate the time.
My guest today has been Vicky Arsenault. She is a life coach. You can find her at Vicky Arsenault. That is VickyArsenault.com. You can find her on Facebook and Instagram at Coach Vicky Arsenault. And she has a podcast, Faithing Your Fears. So look for that on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google. This has been Forging a Life with Coach Christine Clark. Until next time.